Thank you, Nia. I'll share some slides here to frame our conversation. And again, thank you so much. Delighted to be here with y'all today, to be alongside Donna in this conversation, and to just be in community with my friends and peers in Boston. So, that being said, I'm coming from Detroit where it is 93 degrees today. It is unseasonably hot. So I hope everybody is staying cool in Boston. And I also want to first thank the Boston Ujima team for this invitation, for the work that we've done together around planning Ujima Wednesdays and Translocal Partnership, and just the community building that has occurred over the last, since the Assembly of Black Possibilities, I should say. So, yeah, again, Donna and I are here today to talk about framing the future and institution building. And we're going to be crossing that bridge tonight. We hopefully have folks present in the room. I know we have a hybrid setup here. So if you are on Zoom, if you'd like to come on camera to engage in the conversation, because this will be very conversational, we invite you to do that, and use the chat or reactions on the Zoom as well. If you're in the room in Boston, I know we have the camera situation moving around, but please try to speak toward the camera so everyone can hear you as well. So I know we did a quick check-in already. So at this point, I like to pass it over to Donna to share a short passage from Tony K. Bambara's preface to This Bridge Called My Back. It's a book that taught us that coalition is not just about policy, but it's about spirit. So I'll pass it over to you, Donna. Oh, Donna, you are muted if you start speaking.
Thank you, Teddy. I'll just read this for you. Now that we've begun to break the silence and begun to break through the diabolically erected barriers and can hear each other and see each other, we can sit down with trust and break bread together. Rise up and break our chains as well. This bridge lays down the planks to cross over to a new place where stooped labor, cramped, quartered down, pressed, and caged up combatants can straighten the spine, expand the lungs, and make the vision manifest. The work to make revolution irresistible. So that's our invitation tonight.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Donna. And yes, we're bringing that energy into the room, right? Definitely laying down these planks from Afro solar punk to institution and mutual aid building. So let's keep going. So, before we go into our story circle, I wanted to ground us in what our ancestors already knew. In the book Collective Courage, which we've been also studying in Detroit, we learned mutual aid wasn't a backup plan. It was the plan. So first, let's take the Underground Railroad. It was a massive clandestine network of cooperation. It wasn't a permanent institution. However, it was an instrument toward liberation. People who had nothing pooled what little they had, a hiding spot, a meal, a lie to a slave catcher. And we see that as mutual aid at its most urgent, right? Life giving and liberatory mutual aid. Then there were the mutual aid societies, burial funds, sickness care, right? Black folks couldn't get life insurance, so we paid $1 a year to make sure that our dead were buried with dignity. From that, we built, and our ancestors built, the Independent Order of St. Luke, a women-led society that eventually started a department store and a bank. They moved from mutual aid to economic power. So, when we're talking about mutual aid tonight, we're not talking about inventing something new. We're remembering something old. And we're asking, how do we carry that tradition into today? All right. So, how about we take a second to do some, oh, sorry. Like start doing some story sharing. So,
you want me to, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Do you want me to say something, Teddy, about that? About
Yep, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Donna.
I thought it was really important to talk about this because we wanted to talk about shame, grief, and joy. And we've written that now that a lot of us were taught that independence is a virtue and dependence is a failure. Some of us were taught the opposite, that it's a shame to not help, and you're not shamed for needing help. And I think we have to have conversations about the different things we were taught about shame. Like what I was learned is you should be ashamed of yourself if you don't help. But some of us were taught that it is shameful to ask for help. And so navigating that with each other is really important. So I want you, mutual aid really is about the fact that we can't survive without each other, right? So we need each other, and that's not a weakness. That's our truth, and that's our strength. We want you to think about a moment when community support showed up for you. Maybe it was a funeral fund, a meal train, someone watching your kids so you could go to a job interview. That moment may have carried some shame at first, but then something shifts. Maybe you feel relief. Maybe you feel seen. Maybe you even feel joy. So we want you to think about that. Joy is not frivolous. Joy is the evidence that we're not alone. Tony Kate Bombara said, "The dream is real, my friends. The failure to realize it is the only unreality. Mutual aid is how we make the dream real, one small shame-busting act at a time."
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Donna. So yes, with that, I think we can go into our first breakout room, and maybe in the in-person setting, y'all can break out into maybe groups of 3 or 4. I noticed there are tables there as well. But on the Zoom, we're going to break out into a few rooms where we're going to discuss this question of shame, right? Of joy. And so the question is, let me pull it up. Yes, share a moment, however small, when community support turned your shame into something else, even briefly, right? So we'll post that in the chat as well. You'll have about 5 minutes within your breakout group just to kind of like surface it. And then if folks want to come back and share something that stuck out in their room, we can do that. So I'm going to create a few breakout groups here. Again, the question is share a moment, however small, when community support turned your shame into something else, even briefly. Okay, I'll post that in the chat. So you should be seeing a dialogue to move into breakouts. Please click that. If it does not appear for you in the Zoom, there should be a little circle that appears that says breakout rooms. You click that and then you join your breakout. And in person?
I'm gonna add a room of in person.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you.
Risa's also in person. I can go.
You should.
Hi, y'all. I just came back from my breakout room. The person on the telephone seemed unable to respond.
Hi. Okay, you can join us. Oh, sorry.
Oh, good one.
Hello? Okay. Okay. We'll just use this. Hello? Okay, bad. I think Tomashi left though, but keep going with your story. Sorry.
Yeah, so I've felt deeply held in love and gratitude and being like held, feel like able to like also hold space for somebody else that I love. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have one? A moment, however small, when community support turned your shame into something else, even briefly.
I just wanted to say, because Teddy and I we had a hard time connecting. And so we didn't get to write all this together. And Teddy, I don't know what you thought about my different thought about shame, because I wonder if it really made me wonder if that shame comes from the dominant culture. You know what I mean? It's the dominating culture, as I would say, because if like I said, I grew up in South Carolina and in Dayton, Ohio, foundationally, and were you taught to be ashamed that you needed help? I mean, I think up here, a lot of people, I think in Boston, a lot of people are, to be quite honest. But I'm wondering, is that what we're taught, or is it what it's a question.
I definitely feel like that was something I was taught, was to feel ashamed for asking for help, because it seemed like everything, like we could figure it out in the family, and that if you had to like go outside the family, it was just like a sign of weakness, or you weren't able to accomplish it. Like even like my family's relationship with government assistance, I think has even been like colored by that, like not even wanting to guess, like for them not understanding like having WIC was a form of government assistance, or getting housing subsidies is a form of government assistance, but like asking for SNAP or asking for another form of government assistance is a shameful ask, because I think it's even culturally like the idea of a welfare queen, like how we've been pushed down that idea. And so just asking for help when you should have figured it out by yourself, I think is where I've got that from. Like you should, like you're smart, you should have figured it out. Why are you asking for help?
And it almost feels like a sign of failure when you do ask for it.
Where did you go?
Yeah.
I'm eating.
And we have in our breakout rooms, just got back to and I'm sorry, I know how it is interrupting the breakout conversations and even the in-person conversations. So thank you y'all for being in conversation and talking back with each other. And we love to hear from the different breakouts, if there are a couple stories that y'all would like to raise in our large group, that where joy became a part of the story.
Can I volunteer? Just because I got into my group late, and so I was just about to share. So what I'll share, they don't know either. And also want to say shout out to Alex, who's on the phone but having technical difficulties. They're a great artist and they're listening in anyway. I'm still Tamashi. The point of shame that I was thinking about, Donna, is being an adoptee. Being an adoptee from a poor and working class family. And at some point around 7 or 8, I felt like visceral, bone deep shame about not actually having parents to belong to, who were like obligated to come and get me. And so every other interaction around parenting or nourishing or caring was I was lucky. And it was like a kindness. And when I compared myself to other people, I felt bad about that. But actually coming to Ujima and learning, through Nia and then through Ujima about more and more about Black cooperative histories, understanding that my family, I'm adopted into my family of origin, but that the care system that sought to keep me out of a larger system is actually a beautiful thing. And my circumstance was not actually that I was like sorely unwanted, but I was so wanted that great steps were taken to try to save me. and that we're a part of a larger context of Black survival histories in this country that unfortunately, in my family of origin, we only knew so far back as like Texas, and it was always out of crisis, but never inside of a larger context of a creative Black survival history that was without shame. So actually, like learning our macro history through Ujima and Collective Courage and the Assembly of Black Possibilities is really changing the way that I feel about my story, and I don't feel so ashamed about it now. Thanks.
Jay, thank you so much for sharing, Tamashi. Would one other person like to share before we continue?
I can share.
I was gonna say that's a pretty cool beat.
My name is Risa.
Don't put my audio.
Yeah.
Your audio, they can hear you right here.
All right, my name is Risa, and I was telling a story about how for very many reasons I am taking space to let my partner heal. And in making the choice to leave my home for the summer, I reached out to many friends because I have very few family. And the family that I do have very few resources. And so in reaching out to friends, I got a great warmth of welcoming. And instead of feeling displaced or lost, I have felt like deeply held and an incredible amount of gratitude. And also realized that part of the invitations that I'm getting to be held are because in the past I also extended that. So connecting that to like, this is sort of the mutuality of aid. And thinking about the offering of aid as also being a gift, as much as the receiving of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, and thank y'all for being again in conversation around this. And I would love to share my screen and share a bit of one of my mutual aid stories as well, because I think I was hearing Donna's question at the end around where and how did we learn shame? Like, where does it come from the system? Where does it come from? And I think those are really important questions. And for me, last year, a close family member, my sister, was facing a possible jail sentence, right? So it's like, for me, that part of that shame came from the fact that it's like, oh, this is my sister, and we don't get in trouble. So now I have to go out and think about where that bail money would come from. And I felt this knot in my stomach asking people for that help, right? You know, I thought to myself again, I'm a lender, I'm a cooperative developer, I got a couple of degrees, and I should just have this handle, but I didn't. So to like kind of transform it, we started the FAFO Solidarity Bail Fund. FAFO, y'all might know that means F around and find out. And we put a call out, and within days, neighbors, friends, even people we barely even knew sent small amounts. Some sent large amounts. And you know what happened? That shame really turned into something else. It turned into joy for me because I realized I wasn't alone and that our community showed up. So that's what we mean when we say mutual aid is a doorway. It's not just about money. It's about breaking the idea that we have to do everything by ourselves. Even if it's, if it's a part of telling our stories and re-examining our histories, or uh, realizing that there are bonds outside of our families that could also be really, really useful if we transmute that shame. So moving on. Let's see, next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about the Maroon tradition. I know in the previous Ujima Wednesdays, we talked a lot about marriage, the idea of like how do we carry that on, right? So that question leads us to how do we go from crisis-only mutual aid to building institutions that last? That's where we get to prefiguring, imagining, and building the world we want inside of the shell of the old one. So Andrew Sage, who was our previous speaker, called it carrying on the maroon tradition. What did they do? Right? They escaped, then they built on the outside. So I want to share 3 low barrier, high trust tools that can be started in a neighborhood, a book club, a union hall, amongst Ujima folks with no additional grants required. So let's see, what do we got? The first two I want to share is mutual credit. And some of these ideas I think are going to be coming back to uh, what Andrew brought up last time, and just kind of bridging them again, right? And we'll get into conversation around them in a second. So first, mutual credit. This is a community control exchange system. So imagine a ledger where everyone starts at 0. Say you fix my bike and you get 10 credits, right? And then one day you go and buy bread from one of your baker friends or get, something from your baker friends, then you go down 5 credits. So it's really an exchange, like a barter system where no money changes hands, but it's built on trust. The credit is created at the moment of exchange as well. It also stays within your community, and it's designed not for hoarding, it's designed for circulation. So that's tool number 1. Tool number 2 is something I think many, many folks have heard. We hear a lot now, called rotating savings, otherwise known as a SUSU, or maybe you have heard it as partner or hand. There are a few different names for it because I think it's such a global concept on how people can support each other financially. But essentially, the concept is like 10 people agree to put in $100 a month. Each person, each month, one person gets the whole $1,000. And after 10 months, everyone has had a turn. It's not small, right? Like $1,000 in one lump sum can be really supportive for someone. And it's like a ladder. So it could pay for emergencies, for school fees. Shoot, it could be a down payment on a new car or something, or a used car, even better. But it really helps to build the habit of trust, right? And then last one, we have our library economies. I really like the slide that Andrew shared last time, the graphic. But library economies are, thinking about what if instead of every household going out and buying a power drill, a carpet cleaner, kitchen space, that we actually shared the resources that we already have. And so something that exists in many places are tool libraries, or like a regular public library as well. But imagine this as a library of things: sewing machines, camping gear, art studios, Tamashi, or commercial kitchens, right? So it helps to get people access versus having to own everything. It also helps to cut waste, save money, and it forces us. And I know this can be hard, but it forces us to talk to our neighbors. So, really, the question here we get to is, what if we shared instead of bought? And that brings us to our next breakout. So again, we're gonna break out again, thinking about how these tools feel most which of these tools feel most doable in your community, right? So let's see, let me get the prompt ready. So what feels most alive in your community right now? And actually, we won't move to breakouts for time's sake, but we will answer in the chat if you like. And we can come off of mute. So which of these 3, mutual credit, SUSUs, or library economy, feels most alive for your community right now? So think about it for a quick second. You can answer in the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand or speak from the room, we'd love to hear it. Okay, Hannah, I see in the chat that Hannah used to help organize a community currency project. Okay, all right. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, Hannah?
I think what you were saying about community credit makes a lot more sense because that project eventually folded. It had paper currency that was only to be used in a certain area. So it did keep wealth in the area. But there were issues like overaccumulation in some areas, and then that person couldn't spend it quickly enough, or didn't have enough places to spend it. But it was a really interesting thing to be part of.
Okay. Was it like cryptocurrency? Was it more like spreadsheets? How did y'all keep track?
Well, it was paper currency printed just
Okay.
to be used within a certain county. So the idea was that the wealth wouldn't leave the community. And then we also printed a newspaper where people would say what they had to barter and what they would accept for the currency and what they were looking for.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah. A new market, really. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Hannah. Would anybody else like to share? Maybe two more folks, if y'all want to share in the chat, or for folks online, or if you're in the room, feel free to raise your hand or yeah, talk to us. Okay, I see
Hi,
Nia.
I didn't raise my hand.
Oh,
Sorry. Go
no,
ahead,
no,
Nia.
no, no. Sorry, go ahead, Tomash.
I'm wilding. I'm wilding. And I already spoke, but I'm a part of a little community group here in Cambridge, where I'm actually in Somerville, but there's some members of my community who get together and try to help each other. And today a request was made for an air conditioner, and we have an air conditioner in the basement. So I'm gonna give the air conditioner, and the air conditioner is gonna go to a family that lives in community housing with no air conditioning. So I guess that's all I can think of that is happening right now. But yeah, like people just sharing whatever they have in this little group that I get to be a part of.
That's amazing. So it's not only a tool like a tool library, it's like you can get AC from being in this network. So amazing equipment, amazing sharing for folks, right? Like dealing with this like in Detroit, we need that AC on right now because it's 95 degrees, y'all. It's June. It's crazy. That's wild. It's wild. So anyway, thank you for sharing that, Tamashi. Um, one more before we move forward. And I'm actually seeing Mary with some really good follow-up questions around how did that group form and what trust was needed for that. Um, so yeah, these are really, really important questions around community agreements and coming together. So Tomashi, if you want to share more.
An artist, a really beautiful, generous artist who lives locally, has gatherings. She tries to get people together for solstice gatherings. That's how I met the person who then eventually like rounded people up. So for me, I can trace it back to a generous artist opening up her home for like just communing and slowing down, and it turned into something else. Also fear. We're very afraid. Like the ice, the coming of ice raids, and just like anticipating the possibility of a time when we will really need to know who our neighbors are locally and who we can trust. So we've been trying to build trust with each other intentionally.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thanks for that follow-up. Okay. Donna, did you have any questions you wanted to ask regarding this? Or shall we move forward? Oh, I think Donna's muted.
Yeah, I think we should move forward. I just want us to also think about how we could improve some of these ways of doing, because like as an example, I have so many friends with storage units with stuff that they never use, and how it's just how do we get that stuff moving in our communities, because people just have so much stuff. I have an air conditioner in my basement that I haven't used for years. I don't even know if it works anymore, but you know, it's crazy. If there's something wrong with us, how much we accumulate and how hard it is to move it.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that reflection, Donna, on developing systems of mutual aid, right? Thinking about how do we get stuff from one place to another, right? That sounds like an opportunity for a time bank, right? Perhaps of people helping to move things. It sounds like some socially owned social media structures or group chats, kind of to what Tamashi brought up, and just that continuous like I'm actually gonna clear out my basement and get this stuff away versus thinking I'm gonna you know hold it forever. So I'm right there with you. I have three young children that continuously go through clothes, so we're like we need to do something about that. So it is about making those call outs. It's about accessing the resources that we have, like the Ujima Time Bank, um, and going and sharing, right? So thank y'all for that. So as we go, we have, I think, a couple more questions at the end, but I want to share a little bit about what we're working on in Detroit. So here in Detroit, we've been testing some of these ideas, right? We just finished our study circle of collective courage that came up with some concrete proposals. One is housing for single mothers with a built-in cooperative childcare. Another is a home maintenance co-op that installs solar panels and rain barrels, going like block by block. And we're also reactivating our cooperative economic network of Detroit to move from isolated acts of care to a system of economic interdependence. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that because I know, right, in this translocal environment, it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at the Ujima Time Bank, like is amazing, and we try and experiment and do different things in our community. So I wanted to share a little bit about what Detroit is working on and start asking more questions on what feels possible, right? Because we're going from right thinking and knowing what Andrew was sharing with us, that we have to prefigure and imagine possibilities to building, right? Like actually going out and doing it. So I want to ask another question for us to think about. And it goes back to Toni K. Bambara. She wrote, "The dream is real. The failure to realize it is the only unreality." So, where do you see the dream already real, even in a crack in your own life or community? So, want to hear like what y'all are dreaming up, like what really feels possible. Yeah, let's share, in our last few minutes together. Oh, Jasmine, please.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Sorry, I'm gonna stay off camera because my connection is shaky, but I work at an organization right now that I work at 211. There's I'm sure a lot of 211s, we are the information line for Alameda County. But what I'm seeing, and I'm sure as we all understand, there's a level of barriers and just challenges that are unique to Black people. And I really want to start a Black case management program that I have been working on the side. I think it will be very powerful to have a model like that even wider than just the county, where we're actually providing intensive case management for Black residents. Because when we think about how bias is alive in all of these different systems that we're needing to have access to, the medical system, the housing system, all of these different things, there's a extra and more significant layer of challenges that I feel like connecting the Black community to lived experience experts that also have the professional expertise of navigating these systems. They understand in a deep way what the challenges are, helping them create a realistic plan, working with them to navigate the systems and actually staying with them, because there's like a lot of recidivism that happens after, people get housed and these other barriers aren't met. So that is something that I think is possible. That's something that I'm, trying to work and plan around, but it's also something that I think is necessary given what we know about these barriers and also the resources that people need to be successful and sustainable.
Yes, thank you, Jasmine, for sharing your dream with us. And of course, as as like you put the dream out into the world, it becomes more and more real, right? Like more reality as Tony Cade Bambara urges us. So thank you for sharing that. And hopefully the support around that idea can come to fruition, because community health work, mental health work is such an important need right now. And we thank you for making those considerations in your plans. Anybody else want to share? Nia, I saw you were actually very much resonating on the storage unit concept that came up in the chat, which I'm just seeing. But would you like to share, or would someone else like to come off or in the room and share?
I could share. So I actually really appreciate Donna raising this, and so um I I think it's really interesting to think of the notion of, yes, the fact that we accumulate stuff. I mean, this is why we're able to. Tamashi talked about the air conditioner that she's able to offer her group, because that's in our basement right now. And so yeah, what if we, took a storage facility building and repurposed it, and so created essentially the library economies that you talked about.
Wow.
So the third tool,
Mhm.
and we already kind of have a place where people are using the storage facilities. They're paying for them, and like Donna said, they're kind of storing their stuff and then forgetting about it. But yeah, it could be neat to think of a group of people coming together to purchase one, co-own it, and then think about how we activate it, and how we created as spaces for people to come. And really, I think the piece that I like more so than just of a just complete giveaway is thinking about exchange. So really kind of thinking about the library piece of it, um, so that it has a revolving element.
Mhm.
Because I think the other thing we want to try to build in to new or old tools that we are repurposing, older systems that we are rethinking, new systems, is we do, I think, definitely want to try to build in thinking about sustainability.
Mhm.
So yeah, that could be a very neat thing to do with, these warehouses that take up a lot of space.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for expanding on that idea, Nia. And I know you, once you get to, thinking and planning that it's a real, real possibility that I will be coming to Boston and seeing this facility open in the next year. So let's see. And that would be so amazing too, to even as you were talking, it inspired me to consider some projects that I've seen locally in Detroit. We have these tool library, not just the tool libraries, but we have these repair cafes. And so I know half the time, like my stuff ends up in the basement because I'm like, oh, it's not working no more. Even though it probably, if I screw one thing a little differently, it probably would. So how do we also make sure we are recycling and regenerating from what is available to us? And if we have replaced it, removing it from our space. So this idea actually feels really, really actionable, and I hope useful to everyone here. So we are coming up on time, but I see Tamashi has raised their hand, and I would love to hear from you.
I'm sorry, this is TMI, but while we're sharing about having too much stuff, I have an overaccumulation of books, and I believe that each one of them is necessary though, because I used to have my students reading Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents and The Handmaid's Tale. And, call me paranoid, but I started to get really worried about a time when certain books were not going to be accessible. And I'm living long enough to find that is happening. So I want to make my home library organized so that it can be a lending library, and a sitting library, like a library where trusted community members can come in and have access to the reading room and just read for a number of hours and then leave, or be trusted to borrow books and actually bring them back. I would like for us to have our own system where we value reading comprehension together, and really take responsibility for the fact that we have to be the creators of our own infrastructure to maintain ourselves. It's not a given that the structures that we were born into are just gonna continue to be supported when we're watching them actually be dismantled. So I don't want to feel like a book hoarder. Right now, I feel like I am because they need to be shared.
Thank you. Yes, and you're getting a lot of love in the chat for that idea, Tamashi. So I'm encouraging you to let's get the plans. Let's talk about the plans. So that is what this whole series is starting to bridge us into. So I'm really excited for the coming Ujima Wednesdays, on how we actualize mutual aid. You're going to hear from some amazing, amazing folks. But before I end, I'd like to pass it back over to Donna for any closing thoughts or any messages before we wrap our time.